everyone, Danielle and Bryant here. Thank you for your continued interest in German new medicine. In this video, I'm going to discuss the background and discovery of German new medicine and also look at the basis of Dr. Hammer's research. So GNM is the result of years of research by Dr. Gerd Hammer, who was head internist at a cancer clinic in Germany. His research was triggered in 1978 by a diagnosis of testicular cancer following the sudden loss of his son in a shooting accident. And he wondered if there was a link between the cancer and the trauma. And when he went on to discover that all of his cancer patients had experienced some sort of trauma themselves before their diagnosis, he knew he was onto something. He took the innovative approach of using brain scans to determine what was happening at brain level, as well as assessing what was happening in the physical. As his impeccable research continued, he discovered that certain traumas affected certain areas in the brain, that certain organs were governed by these areas, which he called control centres, and that the brain controlled specific parts of our organs that were formed at the same time as that part of our brain. This links his discoveries to embryology and even our own evolution, and this will all be explained in my future videos. He called his discoveries laws because they were found true in all cases he studied, and he went on to study over 40,000 cases, finding more and more evidence that these laws in fact applied to every single case without exception. Now, conventional research allows the use of hypotheses and theories to be a basis of further research. The actual definition of hypothesis is something that is used as a basis for further research but has not yet been proven to be true. So any research or accepted science that is based upon a hypothesis is basically hypothetical, and if a hypothesis turns out to be false, everything that has this hypothesis as a basis will become incorrect. The main difference in Dr. Hammer's approach to the conventional approach is that he would not entertain a theory if it was not empirically proven. Every finding had to be proven without exception. And even if there was just the one exception, it would be dismissed. And this is why he called his discoveries laws. And I'll just read a quote from Dr. Hammer in his own words. So, conventional medicine has 5,000 hypotheses. It is therefore not a natural science. It cannot be. On the other hand, the German new medicine is a strict science that has only 5 biological laws of nature and no hypotheses. For the first time in medical history, there is a scientific medicine which all physicians have always wanted, with which one can now reproduce any patient case strictly scientifically." End quote. Now you would think the medical professionals and universities would be interested in his discovery, but what he actually found was quite the opposite. So next I will actually look at the challenges that he faced in sharing his research. He finished a detailed postdoctorate thesis of his discoveries in 1981 and submitted it to the University of Tübingen for evaluation, but the university refused to evaluate his work and rejected it, and they told him to stop his research or he would lose his job. Dr. Hammer continued his important research in a private clinic. However, his harassment continued. In 1987, his research extended to cover all diseases, not just cancer. However, in 1989, his medical license was revoked on the basis that he would not revoke his research and comply with the conventional theory. He continued to research, relying on other doctors to provide brain scans, but was then imprisoned in 1997 for practicing without a license, and this was really for giving free advice to 3 people. There is an interesting point to make here, as in that court hearing, the prosecution stated that 500 patients had died under Dr. Hammer's care, but the defence then forced them to admit This was 500 out of 6,500 cases, and most were classed as terminally ill. Of the 6,000 who survived, all experienced a full recovery, and a full recovery is determined by no relapse within 5 years. This is actually equivalent to over 92% success rate. And this is what really made Lloyd and I sit up and listen and begin the process of unlearning everything we thought we knew, because we have never heard anything else with such a high success rate. And this success rate was officially declared. It wasn't just estimated or determined by some sort of study, of which many studies can be biased. And this included patients who had undergone conventional treatment. Dr. Harmer stated himself that in patients who had not undergone invasive treatment, that his success rate was more like 98%. So back to his challenges. The harassment and ad hominem attacks continued, and he was called a Nazi, cult leader, and all sorts, and still is today to discredit his work. In 2004, he was extradited to France and imprisoned for 3 years more, after being found responsible for the deaths of some French citizens who he never met, but only because his publications were in French. He lived the rest of his life in exile and died from a fatal stroke in Norway in 2017. He continued his research up to his death, but sadly he died before he was able to set up formal training for GNM. And this is why it continues to be suppressed to this day. So why did he experience all this harassment and unfair treatment? And why is this science so suppressed? Well, firstly, a lot of biology has been written as science, but based upon the hypotheses, as I previously said. So they would really have to rewrite the entire subject. And so many profitable industries, such as the pharmaceutical drugs industry, the vaccine industry, and the cancer industries, actually rely upon the conventional science to even exist. And when you see these figures, you realise exactly just how much these corporations have to lose. Obviously, there are many other relevant figures, but these two will just give you the idea of the sums involved. The figures are in US dollars, but the totals are worldwide. And looking at the top 10 global oncology companies, what we are basically looking at is the cancer industry. This is their income from cancer for 2018. And just how do these control what information we have access to? Well, in the US, which sets a precedent for the rest of the world, they do this through lobbying. And as this has to be declared, we can see actual figures. The company's lobbyists lobby government officials to influence them in ways that benefit the lobby's interests regarding legislation, regulations, and the enforcement of government decisions. This is basically what we call bribing in the UK. And to give you an idea, in the past 22 years, the pharmaceutical and health products industry has spent over $4.45 billion in lobbying. I hope that this has encouraged your thirst for more information